Audacity and insanity are very close to each other. So yes, let's go. And sent over a deck to me, which was the first kind of vision of then Aetherflux, which was to build a constellation of satellites to collect solar power in low Earth orbit and beam it to Earth by laser. And the big vision was build the first orbital energy grid to completely disrupt the relationship that we have on Earth with energy and make energy free and available across the entire planet. The one is they are generally relentless. Like these are people who are willing to engage in conflict and willing to ignore no's and maybes and constantly reposition and redirect for a yes. But otherwise, there are 8 billion people on the planet. I'm going to go find the other 7 billion and think it's a great idea. And finally, they're visionaries. I mean, the simple way of putting it, people talk about, the reality distortion field that Steve Jobs used to establish. That is a very real thing. The world is full of risk. You woke up this morning and, anything could have happened. You have to stack rank which risks matter the most and, which are the enterprise threatening risks and which are the risks that everybody needs to be aware of. But you're going to move forward anyway. The reality of that is 100% true. And if you actually stop and you say, those aren't these words on a page, that if you think that the highest and best purpose of your time on this planet is to grow to your greatest potential and to intellectually satisfy yourself and do things that make you excited every day, like you need to embrace the fear and anxiety that comes along with making those decisions. But mostly, don't be afraid. Just jump in, take the plunge. The plunge in and of itself is the most rewarding part. Because you realize you can do it. Wake up the next day, you still put your pants on the same day, you're just going to a different office. The company starts with the thesis that there's a limitless supply of power in space, right? You've got, especially if you are in certain orbits around the Earth where you can face the sun pretty much all the time, you can get solar power, which is 10 times more powerful than the solar power you get on Earth. The size of this ground station is about 15 meters wide. So you're talking about taking something from 500, 600, 700 kilometers in orbit and hitting a spot that small is a little bit hard to get your brain around. It became very obvious that the single biggest energy problem on planet Earth right now is powering the insatiable demand for AI compute. This thing makes money, put simply, even with a non-reusable rocket. What we're really building is a rocket which looks more like a hypersonic missile with a data center on top than it does a vehicle which is designed for other purposes, like doing repeat launches, multiple launches to get as many Starlink satellites up in orbit as possible, or trying to ultimately get you to the moon or to Mars. We're turning that whole process, which currently takes 5 to 7 years, into an industrial manufacturing process so that at scale, we can get chips from a factory, validate them and integrate them into a satellite and into orbit and operating in a matter of weeks, not years. You're right. It's super hard. We're building 4 different companies at once: a rocket company, light company, a data center company, and then ultimately probably a software company, because we'll probably operate cloud in order to provide compute services to people out there. I've been on calls where with a straight face, we're talking about putting nuclear reactors on the moon, using our system to beam power from the reactor across the lunar surface to power lunar rovers who will be engaged in the process of mining helium-3, which is an essential component of doing computing. Cool. You only get one shot at this. Let's do this. This is fun.